Yeah, houses that have bugs, that have mold, that have holes in the floor, leaky roofs, windows that aren't properly sealed, and that these things have been brought up to landlords, and for a long time, or it takes a long time for these to get resolved or don't get resolved. And so, yeah, just the conditions of housing, that just thinking of like what I would want my family to live in, and how houses should be set up for families to live, and then for the amount of rent that people pay, and then what they get for that.
Housing is an issue, and I realized that right away, and I felt really naive coming into it, like when I started my position, because people were like, oh, I need housing. I'm like, oh, okay, let's just look for some things and we'll apply real quick. And it wasn't like that. And honestly, I guess my first experience was when I moved here for my job. So that was personal. I got hired, and it was a week before I started my job, and I had nowhere to live because there was nothing. And I emailed my supervisor, my boss, like, I need somewhere to live. I'm starting a job and I have nowhere to go. And they had no idea either. And so thankfully a week before, someone that I knew, they said they were looking for a roommate. So then that happened. And I've had problems since with housing too. So it's been a journey. But that's me as a white person that speaks English and is a citizen, and not a lot of barriers. And so a lot of the people I work with, there's a lot of barriers, and that I realized that pretty quick.
Yo soy de Guatemala, pero yo viví 1 año y medio en California y después me vine aquí en Iowa con mi hermana. Duré mucho tiempo, viví con una muchacha, igual, dormía en la sala y no me sentí cómodo igual. Salí, después de eso volví a regresar con mi hermana, pero me quedaba en la sala. Ya no compartíamos cuarto, me quedaba durmiendo en la sala con mi hermana. Y después de eso, yo me quedé embarazada de mi niño y tuvimos problemas en la renta, pero yo viví un tiempo en la casa del gobierno. De ahí ellos me estaban ayudando, pero nunca me salió una renta, pues. Y pues aquí, pues, aunque al principio, pues, aunque no me gustaba, no me quedaba de otra porque no tenía otra opción. No tenía cómo buscar otra renta más mejor que esta. Y aquí, pues, el dueño, pues, casi no arregla las cosas. Tengo que llamar para que venga a arreglar las cosas. Ocupo mira, el señor no... Pues el señor, aunque el señor no me... Para mí es mucho, ¿verdad? Son 725 cada mes y para mí es mucho dinero porque yo soy mamá y papá para mis hijos. No puedo describirle que es muy buena la casa, no está muy buena la casa. Los techos, los muros, entonces para mí no es un buen estado de la casa, pues. Pues a mí lo que me ha preocupado más ahorita el modo, porque no está bien por mi niño. Y el techo, pues miro cómo está, y allá igual, entonces está cayendo. Y lo que más no me gusta es que hay mucha humedad. No tengo máquina para que jale la humedad. Y otra de las cosas es el drenaje. Cuando lavan allá arriba sale todo aquí donde está la lavadora. y no me gusta, huele muy feo. Entonces yo le he dicho muchas veces al dueño, el dueño nunca viene a arreglarlo y las cucarachas igual. Entonces para mí ya como que me estoy enfadando más con esos. Desde casi recién que entré.
Oh, y desde entonces no, nunca ha llegado, nunca.
Nomás vino una vez a verlo y cuando uno le dice, él viene a verlo, pasa un mes, 2 meses, entonces cuesta mucho que él venga a arreglarlo.
I grew up in Minnesota, was in a domestic violence household, and ended up moving to Iowa in 2017. Stayed in that relationship because housing was ridiculous. I know when the relationship ended, I ended up at the FCC center because there was nowhere for me or my kids to go, and stayed there for about a year until I figured out something. Lived in Sheldon for a while, and the prices are ridiculous. And for what you get for that price is ridiculous.
Basically, I moved out to Iowa probably like 6 years ago, and I moved with my partner at the time who was domestically violent with me. We had a couple kids, and it felt necessary to stay in it for that reason, but searching for housing in the area was tough because the places that you could potentially get into had long waiting lists. It was probably after about a year, no, I would say probably 2 years of living together in Iowa that I finally decided to leave with my kids, but that took time. Behind the scenes of everything, I had to kind of put money away and get on a waiting list and secretly meet with housing in order to get into it. And then once I was able to get the keys, I kind of left right away, but that was at least a 3-month process, if not longer. So that was kind of a bummer because when you really want to leave right away, you don't have the means or the place to go. So.
Pues nosotros vivíamos aquí en Orange City cuando Steven, él nació, pero vivíamos en una traila donde era muy pequeña para 5 personas, y así duramos viviendo muchos años hasta porque no teníamos cómo vivir en otro lugar. Antes Orange City era más, no malo con los mexicanos, pero sí hubo un cierto aparte no de racismo, pero no aceptaban muy bien a los hispanos cuando Steven era pequeño. Y duramos hasta que mi esposo enfermó viviendo en la traila por 18 años en un tráiler de 3 cuartos con una familia de niños grandes para vivir en un tráiler. Cuando mi esposo enfermó, obviamente sabíamos que él iba a morir. Entonces él y yo platicamos y decidimos comprar una casa porque pensábamos él y yo que su enfermedad iba, como uno lo ve en la televisión, iba a durar mucho tiempo. Y decidimos vender la traila yo pensando en que él iba a tener una enfermedad larga para poder comprar una casa para que él estuviera cómodo. Entonces, pues él falleció, pero ya habíamos vendido la traila. Entonces, una buena persona nos ayudó a instalarnos muchas personas me ayudaron a empezar a buscar cuando él fue poniéndose un poquito más enfermo, y cuando él murió, es algo, no chistoso, pero es algo que uno sabe que Dios te va poniendo las cosas en el camino y te va poniendo las personas correctas conforme las vas necesitando. En un punto de siempre nos han ayudado, o sea, siempre uno de hispano siempre piensa que uno mismo se hace a un lado porque piensa que no lo van a aceptar en la comunidad americana, pero uno se hace esas ideas porque uno no habla inglés, pero hay personas que no les importa si no hablas inglés, siempre te van a ayudar y pues tienes que ir aprendiendo poco a poquito y pues gracias a Dios siempre la gente que vive aquí en Orange City siempre nos ha apoyado de una o de otra manera y yo amo vivir aquí. Cuando mi esposo murió, yo estaba muy preocupada porque él siempre hacía todo y yo decía, ¿qué voy a hacer ¿qué voy a hacer? Él ya no está y ¿qué voy a hacer con 4 niños? Soy una inmigrante, tengo que conformarme con el trabajo que pueda encontrar porque no tenía un número de seguro. Y un día una persona de Trinity me dijo, ¿y por qué no vendes comida? Y le dije, no, pienso que no se nos va a vender. Y dijo, hagamos un grupo para poder ayudarte, porque cuando mi esposo murió no teníamos un carro, entonces queríamos comprar un carro para poder llevar a los niños a la escuela. Es que los americanos tienen una idea de nosotros que no es verdad. Ellos piensan que nosotros venimos a robar el trabajo de alguien más, pero no es verdad. Nosotros solo venimos a trabajar porque queremos vivir mejor.
So some of the biggest needs that I see are like safe housing, affordable housing, and affordable, not necessarily how you would typically think of affordable, and then just the conditions of the houses that families are living in.
Unstable housing and homelessness here, very much. A lot of my patients, when I follow up with them with a patient assessment that I do, it asks them about housing, if they need housing, if they're worried about housing. A lot of them say they're worried about housing. So I would say that kind of falls within the unstable. Like, you're not sure if you're gonna be there for another month because you're not sure if you can pay rent. You're not sure if the landlord's gonna sell the home. That's a big worry with a lot of people.
How do I want to say this? When it comes to people that are like technically like us, right? Mm-hmm. It feels like there's some type of shadow or cast over us that it's just like, stay away, like, you know, or we don't want to acknowledge that you need help. Or then there's other families that are just so welcoming and so willing to help. But I feel like it has a lot to do with like just the fact that people don't want to acknowledge it's a problem, like that could be solved if we just kind of put our heads together and make it, I don't know, make it better. So.
Pues yo pienso que no me siento, ¿cómo te diría? Yo pienso que yo no pertenezco a esta comunidad, pues porque yo, haz de cuenta que yo estoy muy apartado y casi no conozco muchas personas aquí.
My vision would be that that people could just kind of get their eyes opened to what's going on here, what the needs are, and then getting to know these families. I lived here for many years before I was aware of these circumstances, and so I think a big piece of it is just the awareness and the educational piece, and being willing to learn about this. And it's uncomfortable to know, for me, it's uncomfortable to know that there's our neighbors in our community that are living in these conditions, but a big piece is the awareness piece, and then from that, what can we as a community do to help partner with these families to help them be in a living situation that we would ourselves feel comfortable living in. But every time I talk with a family or meet new people, it just reaffirms this on my calling and the specific vision and dream for this. And so I would love for there to be a community within the community. So a smaller community, within Orange City or outside of Sioux Center, or somewhere where locally families that I've talked to or people that are in need are able to have a place where they belong, where they find community, where they feel seen and known, and their housing is what we'd want to live in. And so they're clean conditions, it's safe, that they feel a part of something. And so, I'm visioning a space where there's different styles of housing, different sizes, and where people, if they need a place to go, there's options, and that it's affordable for them, whatever that might look like for the individual family or for the individual person, but that they would know that, that the community sees them and that they're welcome here, and that space is provided for them. So the idea of the beloved community would be this housing community where people feel that they belong, where they're equipped, where they feel loved, their gifts are offered, that they've been given, where they find validation in who they are, that they are empowered, and that they have dignity. And this whole idea of wholeness and flourishing as individuals and as community members.